Wholeheartedly, I welcome you all, and the pointers, that is the topic of our discussion today. Today we are going to try to simplify the pointers, the concept of the pointers. And by the way, it is a very important concept of C++, because using the pointers you can do so many wonderful, unbelievable things. So let's get started with the basics of the pointers. If you just take a look at the basics for the pointers, it is given to you right away. So basically what does it do? It stores the address of any value. That value could be either integer or float or character or anything at all. Pointer, it just stores the address of that value. That's it. Now we have different categories of pointers. That means we can have pointer to integer. That means the address which it is going to store, our pointer variable, the address which it is going to store, that address can contain integer value. That is nothing but pointer to integer. Another category, that is pointer to float. That means the address where we are pointing to, that value is containing a float value. In the similar manner, the value where we are pointing to, that value is nothing but the character or the string value. So these are going to be the fixed categories. Once we decide to use a pointer to store an address of an integer value, we cannot do anything else. Fine. The address of that value has to be an integer. That's it. Okay, just like that, we can have pointer to object, and finally we can have pointer to anything at all, whatever you imagine. Okay, once again, the address, that will be always unsigned integer. That means the size will be always of 2 bytes. Fine, that's going to be fixed. We are using Turbo C compiler, and that is why we are going to make use of 2 bytes as an address of an integer or float or character or anything. Okay, then comes the array of pointers, and that is the program you are seeing right away. If you just take a look at the code in the yellow section, in the yellow highlighted part, you are given the pointer. There is more than one pointers. It is a bunch of pointers. You can say array of pointers. If we talk about the array, it starts with 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So that is the size of our pointer. Fine, that is going to be the size of our array. That means what we are trying to do is we are going to initialize array of pointers, and we are going to point to different values simultaneously. For example, our first pointer p0, that is going to point to the starting location of the string books, followed by second pointer p of 1, it is going to point to the starting location of the string tv, followed by p of 2, that will be pointing to the computers. Okay, let me just simplify it for you. If you just take a look at the diagram, the whole array of pointer, the concept would be exactly like this. If you just take a look at the diagram, in the red brackets, in the red markings, you are seeing the address. But basically address, let me clarify that part. The addresses will always be hexadecimal values. Alright, so for your simplification, for your proper understanding, I have considered the numeric values in sequence. Okay, so our first pointer p0 is pointing at the starting location of the string books, followed by p of 1, starting location of tv, followed by p of 2, it is pointing to the starting location of the third string, that is computer, and finally third one, that is ports. We still have our fifth p of 4 pointer. If you just recall something, we have 5 pointers, and our final pointer, our star p4 pointer, is not pointing anywhere. That means it is definitely having some garbage values. That means these are the values we don't go for any use. Alright, so that is going to be the allocation. Okay, now you are aware of all the 4 pointers, their values, and the the strings, the addresses they are having. Okay, right after that, let us go for the the sequence of the program. What we are going to do in the program is we are going to get a string, get an input from the user. We are going to search it. If any of our pointers is really pointing to the address which contains the same string or not. Once again, let me rephrase it. We are going to search a string entered by the user from the bunch of pointers we are having right now. We are going to search their contents, and we'll try finding a matching string. Okay, to find a string, we need to go for string comparison function, and before we do that, this is going to be the overview of the program. Fine, we are going to, if we just take a look at the highlighted part right over here, I can give you the overview of the program. First, we are going to take an input from the user. Let us consider the first input user is going to provide is sports. All right, so this string is getting stored right here. Okay, that is going to be the program code. In the program code, we are getting an input from the user and getting it stored in S. All right, so we have assumed that the value of S is nothing but sports. Now we are going to try making the comparisons. We are having 4 pointers, P0, P1, P2 and P3. If you just take a look at the diagrams, we are going to match the contents of each and every pointer. All right, so first of all, we are going to do that using a for loop, because we know that we are having the array of pointers and actually we are having 4 pointers. So we have limited our search up to 4 pointers. That means star P of 4 will be totally discarded, will be totally out of the picture. So we will be focusing on P of 0, P of 1, P of 2, P of 3. That's it. That is going to be our searching criteria. Okay, first of all, once again, let's important this another important part. Okay, the part is, you know, the string comparison function. If you are very thorough, very familiar with the string comparison function, if both the strings it is trying to compare, if both the strings are exactly equal, it is going to return us 0 value. All right, that is the functioning of string compare. String compare is going to return us 0 if both the strings which we are trying to compare are exactly equal, are exactly identical. We are getting 0 value. Okay, in the same contradiction, we are supposed to understand the functioning of if as well. If in the bracket part, we will be putting some conditions. Whenever the condition is true, the bracket will be containing the value 1. That means for every true value, the value inside the brackets of if would be 1. All right, so here is how we have arranged everything. Okay, if you just take a look at the code right over here, I can simplify it for you. Okay, first of all, we are going to make use of string compare function. Using this string compare, we are going to compare 2 strings. If both the strings are equal, if both the strings are identical, we will be getting a 0 value. Fine, we will be getting 0 value, but 0, that is of no use to if part. If is not working, it is not working with 0 value. 0 means false. We have to convert it to 1, and that is how if conditions are always working. Let it be if or while or do while, let it be any conditional part, true means 1. So in case of string comparison function, if it finds 2 equal strings, it is getting 0 value, and this 0 is supposed to be converted into 1, and that is why we had to make use of the not operator right here. All right, so that is the functioning, that is the importance of not operator right there. If both the strings are matching, we will be getting 0. This 0 must be converted into opposite value, that is 1, and then if part is going to be true. Okay, so let's get started. Okay, first of all, with the value 0, we will be focusing with the content of books. We have the value in S. Okay, in S we are having the value sports. So this part, this value is getting compared with something else, you know. Okay, right here, when you try to do that, fine, then try to do that, it is going to be simplified. For the first time, it is getting 0. That means everyone just take a look at the highlighted part right over here. The value, the first value, that will be sports, as you know. Another value for the comparison purpose, P of 0 and P of 0 is pointing to the content books. Okay, this time both the strings are not equal. The value is going to be returned as 1, non-zero value. Of course, it will be converted back into 0. That means if the condition is totally false, we'll be going for the next iteration, that is the value 1. This time the value 1, that means we are considering pointer P1, which is pointing to TV. So this time the first value, initial value, that will be the same, that is going to be sports itself. The next value, the comparison string, it is going to be converted. This time we are going to compare it with TV. Once again, condition is false, That's why string compare is not going to return 0. That means it's going to return 1, will be converted into 0. That means if condition, the conditional part of if, it is getting false. Once again, the next iteration, this time we are going to focus on third pointer, actually p of 2. So p of 2 is now pointing to computer. So first string, user input string, it will be the same, that is sports, followed by the string that is computer. Once again, both the strings not matching, we're returning value 1, that means non-zero values. This value 1 is getting converted into 0. That means conditional part of it is getting totally false out of the picture. Next value, go for the fourth iteration, because we have started from 0. So 0, 1, 2 and 3. That means our fourth iteration, but this time the value will be 3. So P3, where exactly P3 is pointing to? It is pointing to sports. This time we are lucky. This time we are getting the values identical. So this time both the values, both the strings are exactly equal, identical. So we are getting value 0. Okay, this 0 value is getting converted using not operator right over here. It is getting converted using not operator. That means the value will be now 1 inside the conditional part, and that is they found as an output along with the break statement. That means we don't have to go further, we get a break right there, and we simply go out of that loop part. Okay, consider the second input, everyone, because what I'm going to explain you is when we are getting the value 4, the another if part, that is what I'm focusing right now. So in case if user is entering something like the coding for that particular string, if the value of s right here is coding, what is going to happen then? Once again, the same procedure, the same practice. That means starting from 0, p0, that means this time user input value is coding. Okay, right over here, this time I'm making some changes. We are considering the second user input, that is coding. Okay, for the coding, string comparison function will be acting as first string, it will be coding. This time the value of I, that will be 0. That means p0 is pointing to the location of first string, that is books. So books, no matching, go for the next comparison, next iteration for the value 1, p1, it is pointing to TV. Once again, no matching, go for the next iteration, the next value for I, that will be 2. So our pointer p2 will be pointing at the value computers. Once again, no matching, go for the next iteration. This time the last iteration, the value will be 3. That means we will be accessing the value of pointer p3. So p3 is pointing to the sports. Unfortunately, this time no values are identical. Okay, the condition is getting false. That means this time the value of I, this time the value of I will be 4, and the conditional part, if you just take a look at the first for loop, the conditional part will be like 4 is less than 4, which is getting false, which is getting false. That means we are out of the loop, we are out of the for loop, and the next immediate part, the next consecutive part, that is I, if it is 4 or not. If the value of I is found 4, that means you have not found the string you are looking for. So basically that is what we had tried to do. We had tried to access a bunch of pointers, array of pointers, to find a string entered by the user. Fine. This is the same methodology your cell phone might work, your phone book. If you enter some string, if you start your phone to find a particular location or particular name, it will do the same thing. Alright, I hope the content, the discussion was quite helpful to you. Everyone just go through the content, let me know for any improvements. Take care.